Okay, you're going to need some cardboard. Some tissue can be helpful. A pair of scissors. Some mark making tools. I really like using Q-tips if you have them. And some aluminum foil. You should have this in the kitchen. Ask your parents. We're working on texture today. What you're going to do is choose a piece of cardboard you'd like to work with. There's a great trick. You can take a box. I have a kitty. So I have a box of cat food and I can draw a line. Whoops. My pencil broke. There, so I have a line. And I'm going to cut on that straight line. You don't want to use a piece of cardboard that's too thick because that'll be hard to cut. A cereal box would work great. This was from inside another box. Now with your foil, it has a really sharp edge, so please have a parent help you. At foster school, I always tear the foil for all my students. And the foil I use at foster is a little thicker. So what I recommend you do to make this a little easier is make it about, and estimate, about twice the length. So if I put it here, or the width I should say, and here, oh that's nice, and cut it there. So please have your parents do this because that is sharp. Choose if you want the shiny side facing out or the dull side. I'm going to use the dull side facing out because that will be easier for you to see. If I want that side, the dull side out, I'm going to fold it and smooth. Then I'm going to take my piece of cardboard, and I like to put my fingers above because I don't want to, that can cut too if I'm not careful. Pull it down over, and you have to do this a little carefully. And I turn it, have my fingers, see how my fingers are underneath, and I can pull up and over. And I'm going to fold these over too. And once again, I doubled my foil up. If you have heavy foil, sometimes parents have heavy foil around they use for Thanksgiving turkeys. You can use that. Right now, I want to show you, I'm using an old colored pencil that's dull. Do you notice it's not sharp? You do not want a sharp pencil because it can poke right through the foil. Since it's doubled up, it's going to let me draw right into it with this really lovely line I've started with. It's a little bumpy at the edge. It must be from the cardboard underneath. But I'm also being careful not to press in too hard. You can choose to draw an object of your choice. I know a lot of my fourth grades over at Foster, they love to draw sneakers. And I'm fine if you'd like to do that. In fact, let me go grab a sneaker. And I changed my mind. I realized I really love these boots and I thought they would be more fun for me to draw and then work with texture than the pair of sneakers that I have. And I'm hoping you'll enjoy that too. I don't have enough room to show you the boot and drawing at the same time. I'm so sorry. But we're all making do with our best, aren't we? I'm looking and trying to draw a little lightly right now so that if I want to, I can make changes. I want to have some fun with this. It doesn't have to be exact. We draw from observation. We're looking for how large one object is compared to another part of a shoe or another part of what you are drawing. And I think the line right here on the shoe is pretty important. So I'm going to include that. It gets thicker down here. And the heel, so much fun. Now I'm also looking at the part here and that's really going to help it look more like my boots. And I'm noticing this curve ends right in front of the heel there. So it starts up here and it ends here. And I'm noticing the large zigzags that happen. It's not that important you draw exact, because I'm certainly not going to be worrying about getting it exact. What I want you to do is to have a nice start for a shape that you like. Once I have the shape that I like, I'm going to start with texture. And when we use texture, I want you to look back at those photos that I posted, and you'll notice that texture is often created with repeated pattern. For example, let me get a little closer. If I want to create an interesting texture in here, I could go 3 lines one direction, 3 lines another direction, and then repeat that. So I make up a rule and then I follow it. And I'm going to repeat that. I'm really liking the way this is turning out. I hope you can see. Let me zoom in a little bit more. So it's 1, 2, 3, turn, 1, 2, 3, turn, 1, 2, 3. And then I'm definitely going to have different textures in different areas. Hello again. I've added some texture here and I've added some more details to my boot up here. I wanted to show you something fun you can do with those Q-tips. When you're making this, it really helps if you turn your work a lot. And I'm making sure I have a nice smooth edge on my Q-tip. And I'm gently pressing down and rubbing. The smoother your cardboard is underneath, the smoother this can be. Mine's a little bumpy. Wish I'd chosen a different kind, but that's okay. Showing up the texture underneath a little bit. So I'm rubbing this and it's pressing down. I can also try a pen, because in art we like to experiment a lot and see what happens. And you can press dots if you'd like to add some more texture. Texture's how something feels, or visual texture is how something looks like it feels. This is starting to look really interesting. And at this point, I like the way this pen is working. It's a little sharper, but not too sharp. You really have to be careful because the foil can tear. Here you can see I decided to add more texture to the background because I wanted to make sure that my shoe stood out enough. So I have texture back here on my shoe and my heel, and then on the background. And I think I need more texture under here, but I'm also thinking maybe I can go see if I can find a Sharpie. So right now what I'm doing is I'm adding Sharpie. I'm not going to press down hard. I'm going to use the side. I'm going to make sure you can see I'm using this side. And this is where the tissue is going to come in really well. Being very light when I'm using this. And I can get a piece of that tissue that I have. You can use a Q-tip for this. I'm going to just do little circles while it's wet, and that works really well. So you don't want to do too large a piece at a time. I want to put that on that paper, and I'm going to zoom in so you can see how it really brings out the texture over here. You could also, instead, if you don't have those Q-tips, I want to rub gather this into a little bump. And you could use toilet paper if you need to. I know you all have toilet paper. And do little rubs this way if you'd like. So I'm going to do that again up close so you can see. Use the side of the Sharpie. Gently with the side. And then while it's still pretty wet, gentle little circles. And it sort of pushes the Sharpie down into the lines a little bit. And the texture really shows nicely. Now at this point, I've worked a lot with black, and I'm pausing for a second and I'm looking at it and saying, what do I want to change? Because I'm thinking I also have a red Sharpie, and since red and black are such great Hingham colors along with white, I thought I could add a little bit of red to make this pop even more. I have my red Sharpie. I'm going to test that on the back as well because I don't want to get that all over. I want to point out this is why you do not work on a table without paper underneath. Do you see where I have a mark on my paper? So let's test on the back of my foil, because artists always test. And that's coming off of my finger a little bit, but that does look like it's going to dry. Where do I want to add a little bit of red? And I'm going to be a little careful with this because I just want a little bit. And I'm going to take a fresh Q-tip and blending that a little bit, smooshing it out. I don't want it too intense. We've been talking last week, we were talking about intensity of color. I'm going to do this with the Q-tip again. And I'm thinking it would look great down here. The nice thing about this is you can always change your mind what you're doing. Ooh, I wish that wasn't quite so intense. So I'm turning my Q-tip and I'm taking away some of that color. I just learned something. I think I'm going to do the heel. I wonder what you think of that. And I actually sort of like it bright red like that. It's a more intense red. So I'm going to add some more intense red up here where I'm not going to smoosh it around a little bit. And it creates a kind of rhythm, which means my eye is looking in different parts and moves around. Let's do that. I hadn't intended that, but I like it. And I think right now I can still see all of my texture, and I think I'm done for right now. I hope you enjoy this and have a great time.